We now move on to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Saurabh Kumar. Mr. Kumar is the Managing Director at Energy Efficiency Services Limited, which is a joint venture of public sector undertakings under the Ministry of Power of Government of India. Under Mr. Kumar's leadership, EESL has implemented the Unnat Jyoti by Affordable LEDs for All, which is the Ujala program, and the Street Light National Program. He and his team have also successfully implemented several demand-side measures, including municipal functions, agriculture, public buildings, etc., as well as decentralized solar power plants. Prior to joining EESL, Mr. Kumar has worked in various capacities in Government of India and in the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, where he led the implementation of world's largest clean development mechanism for efficient lighting project. We are delighted to hear from you, Mr. Kumar. Over to you now. Mr. Kumar, you can start your presentation.
You'll have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Oh, I think Mr. Kumar is unmuted. Can you try speaking up, Mansalia? Or just... Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. So
No
let me first thank WRI for giving us this opportunity to discuss a very important subject of carbon finance and how can we rebuild rural India is what I would like to focus on. And largely, if you see the theme of the government as well, being Atmanirbhar Bharat, and looking at, in particular, trying to strengthen rural infrastructure. And I think the carbon finance can play a very, very important role in this, and that's what I'll talk about in the next 5 minutes. So can we have the next slide, please? So while the slide turns, let me mention that carbon finance in lighting, and that's where I'll begin with first, is not new to India. And way back about a decade ago, in order to promote the replacement of incandescent bulbs with CFLs, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency developed a carbon finance program. At that point in time, it was the largest carbon finance program, which was created in a manner that it is a PPP model, where the government became the enabler, created what was called the program of activities, and sought the investments from private sector players to do this distribution and recovery of old bulbs. This program continued till about 2012. Nearly 30 million CFLs were distributed. We got investments in the country of nearly 500 crores. And of course, as the Kyoto Protocol ended, this program also did not move ahead. So let me very quickly mention that there are a few, at least 2 or 3 similar program of activities that the Government of India has approved, particularly for rural areas, for lighting. There are a couple of program of activities for renewable energy projects, which are and I'll talk about it, how we can leverage more to strengthen rural infrastructure. Next slide, please. Yeah, while the slide is getting loaded, essentially, and you can move to the next slide, please. This is the Ujala program that was initiated in 2015 by the Honorable Prime Minister. We've done about 362 million bulbs till now. Nearly 11 million street lights in the country have been replaced, and it has become one of the largest programs in lighting anywhere in the world. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we did an analysis of this program, and I'll spend a couple of minutes as to why we need carbon finance to push rural infrastructure. If you see, we did 362 million LED lamp distribution. 80% of these bulbs went to urban areas. It's not that we didn't try to get into rural areas, but simply the penetration of rural areas was very, very low. Reason, of course, 70 rupee is a high cost. And if you see the table below, there were certain states who subsidized this bulb. For example, Odisha took bulbs from us and distributed to rural households free of cost. There's a 98% penetration, 5.2 crore bulbs were distributed. Look at Pondicherry and Andhra Pradesh, where the bulbs were priced at 10 rupees each. The rural penetration is more than 90%. Same thing in J&K, 74%. If you recollect, in 2018, the government came out with a Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, as it is called, targeting certain identified villages which were down in the socio-economic ladder. The price of bulb was reduced to 50. We have 45% penetration. So what I'm trying to say is that penetration in rural households of efficient lighting, and that holds true for any other efficient equipment, is directly proportional to the cost of bulb. The lower the cost, the higher is the penetration. Next, please. Now, the question that that WRI team and Megha was presenting just before me is to create a market within India. But is there a market outside? Yes, there is a market outside, and this is the graph which indicates that there were times in 2010-11 where the CER prices were as high as $25 per ton. Even today, if you look at the European markets, the prices are somewhere around 20 to 30 euros per ton. Korea has a domestic trading scheme, and it's called KETS. They also allow offsets from other markets. The price trading is at 20 to 36 US dollars. There are many voluntary markets, largely because the Paris Agreement is yet to come in force. The Kyoto Agreement has died, and therefore a large number of voluntary markets exist, and the rate of the carbon prices are somewhere between $1 and $10 per ton of CO2. Next one, please. So here, another important point that I would like to make: while there is no international norm or international cap on carbon as of now, hopefully we will have something by the end of the year under the Paris Agreement. But look at the host of countries that already have what is called the carbon tax. Sweden has a carbon tax, Switzerland has one, so on and so forth. What this graph depicts is the country and what is the compliance cost for a consumer or an entity, let's say in Sweden, to meet the obligations under the national regulation. Sweden is as high as 125 US dollars per ton of carbon. The abatement costs are very, very high. And that is why you have not just these voluntary carbon markets, you also have national carbon markets which buy carbon assets from outside. And there are traders who do this all this while, because there are many entities who are obligated by national laws to reduce their carbon footprint, and many of them find offsets to be a more economical way than to invest on their own. As you see on the left hand side, the carbon market has nearly doubled from 2016 till about 18, which is a good sign, and hopefully post 2020 this would only rise. Next slide, please. So what we can do in this? Of course, if you talk about ESL, my cost of taking the bulb to a rural areas is much more than 70 rupees. It's a non-economic activity as far as I'm concerned. But I can still provide LEDs to rural households at about 10 rupees or 15 rupees. What we can also do is to collect old bulbs, destroy them so that they don't get into the market again. And as I said, there is a program of activity that exists. From the investor point of view, if you look at the Indian power sector, agriculture consumes about 20% of energy. The cost of production or taking that power to rural areas for distribution companies is about 6 to 7 rupees per unit. What we are doing in Maharashtra is to have decentralized solar at the government unused lands, and we are giving power at 3 rupees. We can include carbon finance and a host of other services, which is reflected in the next part. For example, Gram Panchayat street lighting. Most of the villages have no street lighting infrastructure. With the help of the additional revenues that I can generate from carbon markets, I can actually put together brightly lit Gram Panchayats and villages. And there may be a host of other things that I can add. For example, I can add a battery storage solution, which can help clean energy to be used by rural households during the day. We can provide, through carbon finance, induction cooked stoves that will make sure that the use of biomass in cooking goes down, or wood for cooking makes much more difference as far as the human health is concerned. Next slide, please, which I think is the last slide. So what I wanted to say that yes, while there are some issues within policymakers as to on the accounting of carbon credits, but if you look at what the Ministry of Power released about 2 weeks ago, the impact of the program that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, EESL, has done, and it also indicated that as far as the Paris Agreement is concerned, we are already down to 20% of the, we had committed as the previous speaker mentioned, in the Paris Agreement that India will reduce its carbon intensity or energy intensity by 33% by 2022 from 2005 level. We already are at 20% as per that report. Now it is in this era where foreign investment, for the investment coming to various sectors would be far and few. It is extremely important for government, the Ministry of Environment, to understand and realize that there is a vast potential to utilize carbon assets. By utilizing carbon assets, you are making sure that you are creating a sustainable, climate resilient infrastructure. And that's why we have gone ahead and started our programs for rebooting Ujala 2.0 towards rural areas, trying to enhance rural infrastructure by using carbon finance. So let me stop here, and I would like to thank once again WRI for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.